Hey Purple Peeps, welcome to Shades of Purple, a Prince podcast. On today's episode, I'm finally going to be starting the new series that I've been talking about, the Purple Kingdom. So the Purple Kingdom is basically, I'm going to be talking about people in Prince's life, people that worked for him, people that were in his band, or women that he dated. So I'm going to start off, this is the first episode, and I'm going to be talking about Andre Cymone. So for those that, maybe don't know who Andre Cymone is, I'm going to give kind of like, a brief backstory, and then I'm going to talk about his relationship with Prince. So let's get right into it. So Andre Anderson, also known as Andre Cymone, was born in Minneapolis on June 27, 1958. So that makes him just a few weeks younger than Prince. Like I said, he grew up in Minneapolis, and he met Prince when they were both in the 7th grade at Bryant Junior High School. And when they met each other, they quickly became fast friends. Andre has told the story in several interviews where he talked about how he first met Prince. He said it was like one of the first, like during the first week of school or the first couple of weeks of school, and they were in the cafeteria, and you know how it is when you're, at a new school and you're trying to kind of scope out like, who you can maybe, start a conversation with. And so they were in the cafeteria along the school wall, I guess, waiting in line to get their lunch, I assume. He didn't really elaborate too much on that. He just said they were, in the cafeteria. So he saw, Prince at the kind of like at the back of the line. And so he just he said he didn't know what it was, but it was just something that made him want to gravitate toward this boy. And so he, went over there and talked to him, and they struck up a conversation. And he said his name was Prince. And Andre said he thought that was kind of a weird name, that it was kind of different. And then they got to talking about, stuff that they liked. And Prince mentioned that he played the piano. And then Andre was like, oh, yeah, I like music, too. And he was saying that he also plays the keyboard, and that he plays a little bass. And so they just kind of went from there. After that, they started, jamming together, because at this time, also Prince was also not only playing the piano, but he was also, by the 8th grade, he would be playing the guitar. So he was already trying to become the multi-instrumentalist that he would become later. So they started, just jamming together. Now, of course, Prince came from, we'll just say, a different type of family. I really don't want to, say that it was like how some people try to say that it was like not a good home. Because from what I've read and seen, he did come from a very loving home for the most part. Like, he did have some issues with his stepfather, Hayward Baker. Prince did. I'm talking about Prince now. And that wasn't a good relationship, and that's what made him decide to move away from his mother and her household, because his parents, Maddie and John Nelson, Prince's parents, got a divorce when he was 10 years old. So just a few years before he met Andre. And so his mother ended up marrying Hayward Baker and had another son with him, Omar. And for whatever reason, Prince and Hayward Baker just could not see eye to eye. And so he ended up moving back in with his birth father, John, for a little while. But then, he got kicked out. And actually, his father bought him his first guitar. But supposedly, he got kicked out because he had a girl in his room. And he had been told several times, not to bring people, or particularly girls, over to the house when John wasn't there. And so he got kicked out, and then he stayed with his aunt, one of his John's sisters, one of his father's sisters, his aunt, for a little while. And then finally he ended up in the Anderson home. Bernadette Anderson was Andre's mother, and she had 6 other children. And I believe that she was divorced at this time from Andre's father. And so she was a single mom raising 6 children. And for her to then allow Prince to stay there, that just says a lot about her character. Now, of course, it wasn't just he was moving in and his parents were done with him. According to Andre, Prince's mother, Maddie, was still very much in his life. she would come and pick Prince up and take him to his doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, things like that. So she was still in Prince's life, but, she just wasn't, caring for him on a daily basis like Bernadette was. But Bernadette wasn't nobody to play with. Andre also would say in several interviews that his mother, put the hammer down when she felt like she needed to. Even with Prince, she treated Prince like another one of her children. And there are so many stories. Now, you know me, I like to try to go look at some of the gossip around this period. And if you go to like those little shady websites like Lickstick Alley and Prince.org, you hear all these different stories. So you can take a lot of this with a grain of salt, and I'm fine with it. But one of the stories that I came across during this time, now mind you, this is around the same time where Andre and Prince are first starting the band Grand Central, which of course would be their band that Morris Day would later join, and then also Andre's sister, and I think her name is escaping me right now, but she would be, I think it started with an L. I don't think it makes me want to believe it was Lisa, but I think it was like Lauren or something like that. But anyway, but at some point, Prince moved down to the basement area of the Anderson home while he was staying there, because initially he was staying in the same room with Andre, but they kind of figured out that Prince was kind of a neat freak and Andre was kind of sloppy. So Prince was like, no, I can't share a space with you. And so he moved down into the basement. But the basement was also the place where the band would rehearse. So Prince and Andre supposedly, when they weren't practicing with the band, they would bring girls over and, do what teenage boys do, basically. So one time they would do this skipping school, and Morris Day would even tell another story about how they was doing it, skipping school and taking girls back to the house when Prince was still staying with John. So that's why I kind of believe some of this stuff, because more than one person has said that this is what was going on. So Andre and Prince would invite girls back down to the basement. They would probably, drink, have sex, whatever. Well, one day, according to, I think it was on Prince.org, Miss Bernadette came home early. I don't know if she was at work or somewhere else, but she caught Prince having sex with a girl on her couch. And so the story was she caught them and she whooped Prince something fierce. Like, let him know, like, how don't you ever do something. Don't you ever disrespect my house doing some shit like this. So, I believe the story too. I believe it to be true because, wow, like, Prince was bold, okay? Like, very bold. And I believe that he did something like that because Morris Day would tell another story about, and I even told this story in my second episode when I was talking about Prince's early life, that, when him and Morris would bring girls back to Prince's dad's house, that he would take it, a step further and pull the mattress off the bed. So when Prince and his little girlfriend would get down, you wouldn't hear like the headboard and all that. So he would just take the mattress off the bed. So I believe that, he did something like that. And so apparently, this is what they would do. They would, rehearse the band, and then they would skip school and, I don't want to say have orgies, and I don't know if it was that far. And even Tyka, Prince's younger sister, which, she wasn't really there, but she tried to claim that none of that stuff happened and that it's just been exaggerated and things like that. And Prince, he had an interview that he did in 1983 where he kind of said that they were kind of, doing stuff like that. But the interviewer at the time was trying to make it seem like they kept on asking, well, was it gay stuff that was going on? And Prince would be like, no, it was just women. It was just, girls. And so I don't know if the interviewer was trying, because, at that time in the early 80s, and even now, but especially back then, when he was still kind of not as well known, people wanted to think that he was gay. But I'm not going to get into that because I made a whole episode about it. So check it out. It's like my third episode. Is Prince gay? bisexual, or straight. So check out that episode if you haven't listened to it. But spoiler alert, he's straight. But anyway, they had all this going on, and eventually Andre would become a part of Prince's band. Once he got signed to Warner Brothers, he would become Prince's first bassist. And the band at the time would become the Revolution, but they were never given a name officially. Now, unofficially, the band, which consisted of Andre Cymone at the bass, what is her name? Mark Fink, of course, on keyboards. Gail Chapman, that's her name, on the other keyboard. Bobby Z at drums, and then Des Dickerson guitar. So this was Prince's very first band, and this was the band that would be with him until about 1981 or so, when both Andre and Gail would leave. But anyway, so yeah, this was a band that would tour with him when he would tour with Rick James. This was also the band that was with him when he did American Bandstand, and when he was on those other early TV shows, those early TV appearances that he had. This was the band, and they were known unofficially as the Rebels. And the reason why they were given that name was it was from an unreleased album that they made in Denver while they're all just kind of just sitting around, being creative. And Prince was like, hey, y'all come up with some songs, And so they did. And so Des Dickerson wrote some songs, Gail Chapman wrote some songs, and also Andre Cymone also wrote some songs. Now, even before Prince, got signed to Warner Brothers and they were still in Grand Central, Andre was also very much a songwriter in much the same vein as Prince was. And there's also, some talk, and Andre has mentioned this as well, that he kind of feels like, that Prince may have taken some of his stuff, but he admits that, especially during what they would do jam sessions, sometimes you might hear a riff or hear a melody or something that would be in a later work that Prince put together. And so, but when you hear that, you want to say, okay, Andre, great minds think alike. And sometimes, an idea that you had, he might have took it and, made it his own. I don't want to outright say that Prince was stealing from Andre, even though a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but some people in some circles tend to think that. And I don't even think Andre was necessarily saying that Prince was stealing from him. He just thinks that, there were some things that he wasn't given credit for. And of course, Andre isn't the first person in Prince's bands to have said that. Of course, later on, Wendy and Lisa would have the same complaint. But the one thing that Andre really had a problem with one particular song was "Do Me Baby." So originally, Andre wrote "Do Me Baby" back during the Grand Central days. It was one of the songs that they were working on as a demo, because of course they were trying to get signed as a group initially. They had Morris Day's mother as their manager at one point, and they were even going to try to get signed with I think Isaac Hayes or Barry White. I think it was Isaac Hayes. They were trying to get signed on to his label, and of course that fell through. But anyway, sometime during this time, which was like the mid 70s, late 70s, right before, because Prince got his deal with Warner Brothers in 1977. He signed it in June of 1977, right after his 19th birthday. So I'm thinking this is between 74 and 76. They graduated from high school in 76. So Prince was working at this time also with, Chris Moon and in his studio. So they made all these different recordings and they were putting together a demo. And anyway, "Do Me Baby," I believe, was one of the songs that Andre had put together as a part of going to be their demo. And so naturally, when years later in 1981, when Controversy came out, here's "Do Me Baby" on that album. And I don't know if Prince ever gave Andre any type of credit. I know that he did give him the song "The Dance Electric," But I'm pretty sure in Andre's mind, that was nice. And he did take the song, Dance Electric. But I don't know if that ever really fully replaced Prince taking the song from him and putting it on his album. And that did cause a rift between them. But Andre was already kind of on his way out prior to that. The last shows that Andre would do with Prince was the European tour that they did, like a brief European tour when they were touring for the Controversy album in 1981. And so that was the last time that he toured with Prince. But I went on to princeball.com, and I'm just going to quote some things that I thought were interesting. Now, I just talked about the Rebel Sessions. Okay, so that was, like I said, it was in Colorado. It was in Boulder at the Mountaineer Studio, and that was in June of 1979. And Andre began rehearsing with Prince's band in the University Warehouse in Minneapolis, and they started from there. So the recordings actually started in Minneapolis, and then they kind of did some more when they went out to Boulder, Colorado, and so that's when they were named the Rebels. But like I said, it was kind of an unofficial name. It was nothing that Prince ever made official like he did with the Revolution. So on here are the songs. Here are the Rebel Session songs. So Des Dickerson wrote a song called Too Long and Disco Away and instrumental number 1. That was all written by Des Dickerson. And then Andre wrote Thrill You or Kill You, instrumental number 2, You, which is written by Prince. If I Love You Tonight, written by Prince. The Loser, written by Prince. And Hard to Get, written by Prince. So Andre wrote Thrill or Kill You and instrumental number 2. Okay? So let's see. So yeah, so Andre, he just basically became unhappy about his position in Prince's band and his output not being acknowledged enough. And Andre decided to leave Prince's camp and pursue a solo career. He nonetheless, like I said, accepted to participate in the already scheduled European gigs. So this was in 1981. Andre and Prince's band, they leave the U.S. on the late May 1981 for 3 gigs in Europe. So they only had 3 shows in Europe. They had 1 in London, 1 in Paris, and 1 in Amsterdam in the summer of 1981. And when he returned from Europe, Andre plays one last time a couple of songs from Prince's band at Des Dickerson's wedding. And Des Dickerson, in his book, which I will also be reviewing at some point, he talks about how Prince was the only one of the band was able to make it in time for the actual ceremony for Des's wedding, because everybody else got caught up. You know, they had to catch a later flight. But eventually they were there in time for the reception, and they did play at Des's reception. So after working with Prince, Andre signed a deal with Columbia and developed his own sound, a mix of funk, new wave, hard rock, and pop through 2 albums. So he had 2 albums, Living in the New Wave, which came out in 1982, and Surviving the 80s, which came out in 1983. How you already surviving the 80s and it's just 83? Also, Andre also wrote and produced 4 songs for Evelyn Champagne King's 1983 album, Face to Face, including the top 30 R&B single, Teenager. Excuse me. In 1983, he assembled his own female band. Now, I didn't know this. And he called it The Girls. Okay, now who copying who now? So, Sheila Rankin, German Brooks, and Doris Rhodes. The band had a sexy image, R-rated lyrics, and sounded Minneapolis style. Andre succeeded in getting them a deal with Columbia in 1983. Now, this was, I think, around the same time that Vanity 6 was coming out. Because I believe Vanity 6 came out in, 1982, 83? So interesting that Andre... Now, I don't know if Andre had this idea. Now, of course, you know, the rumor was that Prince initially took the idea of a girl group from Rick James, but I still don't know how true that is, because Prince may have been thinking about this as far back as 79. And actually, what is her name? I can't think of anybody's name right now because I'm not really going off of notes. I don't have a script for this. I'm just doing it off the top of my head. Susan Moosey. Susan Moosey just recently did an interview on Apollonia's podcast. And in that, she talks about how Prince was talking way back in, like, because she knew Prince, like, before he got his record deal and all that. He was talking about wanting to get a girl group in like 79, 80. So I don't think that he took the idea from a girl group from Rick James. But now, I don't know. That now Andre, it looks like he might have taken the idea of a girl group from Prince, because this girl group came out in 83, and I know Vanity 6 came out in, like, I want to say the year before that. So, but anyway, so he co-wrote all of their material, including the single Don't Waste My Time, and produced the band's debut album Girl Talk, which came out in 1984. The album didn't sell well, and the girls were dropped by Columbia just before splitting up in 1985. So they did one album and done, just like Vanity 6 and Apollonia 6. So I'm definitely going to have to try to see if I can find that. Because I've listened to Vanity 6's album and Apollonia 6, and I will be also reviewing those at some point as well. Okay, The Dance Electric, which I already talked about, it was a song that Prince gave him. But after Prince recorded The Dance Electric on the 17th of August, 1984, at the Flying Cloud Drive warehouse in Indian Prairie, Minnesota, he decided to give the song to Andre. Andre's lead vocals were overdubbed at some point between late 1984 and summer of 1985, and the song was released on his third solo album, AC, which came out in 1985. So he did do a little, solo work with Columbia. Let's see what else. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. I'm reading over the stuff on the Prince Vault. So initially, Andre joined the band in the summer of 1978, and of course he was the first bassist or on bass guitar, and was the very first member recruited, because naturally he was Prince's best friend. So it was like, I don't even think he had to audition, but everybody else did. And the auditions took place at this Dale's Tire Mart, where it was a rehearsal space that was rented. And Bobby Z, I don't know if he rehearsed. I think maybe he did, but Bobby Z was the brother of an early engineer, David Z, who was an early engineer of Prince's. And so he kind of, because his brother was an engineer, he kind of, was also able to kind of get in there. But I'm assuming that he rehearsed at some point as well. Gail Chapman, she definitely rehearsed, and she talked about in her interview that it took 3 months before Prince called her back. So she didn't think that she had, got the gig. Des Dickerson, he also talks about coming to this Dale's Tire Mart to do his guitar audition. And he said the one thing that he decided to do different, which helped him to stand out, and ultimately what led Prince to want to hire him, was the fact that he didn't go crazy with the guitar solo. Like, he just decided just to stay within the rhythm of the grooves that they were playing. And he did a solo, but he didn't go like, he didn't just like lose his mind and just, just try to show out. He didn't do that. And Prince respected that. And so afterward, he actually talked about how Prince and Andre, and I guess whoever that showed up for the audition, was like 2 hours late. And Des Dickerson said he almost left because he had, another engagement that he had to be at. And so when they finally showed up, he just asked, well, hey, would you mind if I go first? And so eventually he went first. Now, I guess they had another day where they did auditions, because, they had, been trying to, find a guitar player, and everybody that they had rehearsed up until this point, I guess just, it just didn't seem very promising. And so when Des went first on this particular day, they were done with rehearsals after that, apparently. Prince took him to the side, talked to him, was like, hey man, I really like your playing. And, Des said that Prince asked him, hey, do you believe in God? And, some other things like that. And so that's how he ended up joining the band. But I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with Andre Cymone, so I apologize. But let's see what else. Okay, so the Imperial Sessions. So in February of 1978, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of cherry picking stuff. Pepe Willie, which was actually engaged. I don't know if he married her, but I think he was engaged to one of Prince's cousins. He recruited Andre and Prince as studio sessions for Tony Sylvester. They recorded 4 songs for the Imperials project, a band Tony Sylvester was considering producing at Sound Palace in New York. And I think some of those would end up on that album 94 East that came out in the 90s. And they kind of, it sold itself as being a very early recording of Prince, which it was. But that's kind of how, it was trying to build up, reputation to make money. And Prince, had an issue with that. And him and Pepe Willie, I believe, fell out over that. But, in a way, I can't blame Pepe Willie. Yeah, he was making money off of Prince. But at this point, everybody was trying to make money off of Prince. As we know, they're still making money off of him now that he's gone. So, that's just, I hate to say it, but that's just how things were and how things still are, unfortunately. So, let's see. We talked about the Dance Electric. Oh, here's a fun fact. Andre was married to American singer Jody Watley, with whom he has a son. Now, some of y'all probably are too young to remember Jody Watley, but she had the song, I'm looking for a new love, baby, a new love. Okay, so actually, how did it go? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, sorry. But so that was her song. And actually, Andre helped produce that. So that's nice. He wrote a bunch of songs for her. What else? What else y'all need to know about Andre Cymone? Him and Prince remained, they weren't as close as they were while he was still, in his band. But Prince, they still remained close for the most part. Matter of fact, Andre tells a story that, when he found out that Prince was sick right before Prince died, that he actually tried to reach out to him, and he texted to a number that, he knew that Prince had access to. Apparently, Bobby Z also had access to Prince at the same time. And so Andre said he was going through Bobby Z, and Bobby Z gave him this number. And so when he found out that, something was, going on with Prince, Andre pretended like, he got kicked out by his wife. He didn't have nowhere to go. And he wanted to know if he could come up to Paisley Park. And he was doing this just because he wanted to check on Prince. And so Prince did respond and said that, he would get in touch with him. And, that was the last time Andre said he heard from him. And that was just, I think, about a month or so before Prince passed. And I'm sure Andre, like a lot of people that loved Prince and that were close to him at some point, probably regret that they didn't do more. And he talked about that. He said in another interview that he did that he wished that he would have just went up there, and not waited for Prince to, respond in the manner that he did. Because there were times where, they would talk on the phone and they would talk about any and everything. And of course, they grew apart, as the years went by. But they, still remained, I think fairly close despite everything. And despite all the drama and things that they went through, I think that they still loved each other as brothers. And I know that Andre, like we all do, misses Prince very, very much. So let me see. I think that is all I have to say on that. Andre, let's see. I think so. If y'all have anything else that y'all want me to highlight about Andre Cymone. Oh, okay. We got a little bit more. So it says that on August 27th, 2011, the Memphis Urban League organized a Minneapolis Family Day party with live events and workshops, and the Arms Around the North Side concert featured Minneapolis 94 East, Marshall Thompson and the Child Lights, Andre Cymone, and Bobby Z. So they participated, him and Bobby Z participated in some type of block party that they had in 2011 in Minneapolis. And then on September 6th of 2012, Andre released a digital single titled America in aid of the United States President Barack Obama's re-election campaign, with all proceeds from the sale of the digital single being donated to the campaign. Okay, so Andre released a song, a digital song, and it went to help in Obama's re-election campaign. So that's neat. Okay. And it looks like the last time, according to the Prince Vault, that he performed was March of 2013 at the second annual benefit to celebrate life held in the at First Avenue. It was some kind of benefit concert at First Avenue, but I'm sure that he has played something since then, because that's been like 10 years ago. And I know some of the interviews that I've seen have been were back in 2020, right before the pandemic, 2019. So I'm pretty sure Andre is still making music now. So he is on Instagram, and he does also have a Facebook page. So please check him out when you get a chance. So I think that is about it with Andre Cymone. So I think I covered everything. So that was Andre Cymone, Prince's best friend and his very first bassist. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it, you guys. So thank you guys for listening. I think up next, I'm either going to do Jill Jones or I might do Des Dickerson. So which one? I might put up a poll and see which person do you want me to talk about, Des Dickerson or Jill Jones. So let me know in the comments on Facebook or here on Spotify, okay? So thank you guys so much. Love you. Peace and be wild. And may you live to see the dawn. Bye.